The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right, Body GM, sir.
Body, what's up, man?
It's great to be here.
I'm seeing what you're saying. No, I mean XMR Bazaar with an integration into Dark5 for the bond. Yeah.
I might be being too complex there. Maybe you just need a multi-sig, so Monero's fine.
Or better yet, we'll use Xano. Oh my god!
Oh man, not again.
Fires will be lit. It'll be like LA. So just burn it down. Jesus.
This is your LA token burning. Your LA fire token.
We'll use Monero, and then we'll have the hearts of all the community members. We'll use the purest coin of all, Monero, to do our bonding.
We'll use Zcash.
Obviously Zcash. I love supporting Zoko's stake habit. I was thinking through this whole drama, the culture that we set now collectively as a group. I know that sounds communist collectively and all, but the culture that we set in aggregate now is going to ripple ahead as Monero adoption grows. So it's something to keep in mind. I think your style is great. You give people a floor, you give them a platform. You're polite when they're on stage, but you also bring the tough questions when it's necessary.
Yeah, try to balance that as much as I can, right? With the reality that we do, we get sponsorships, right? We need sponsorships to run the conference. Anybody who's been to the conference sees that, that there's a lot of capital that goes into that thing, right?
Bitmain, and it's right. Bitmain was there as a sponsor,
Yep. And it was great.
Those guys, they locked up, they got the Bitcoin supply. They did a good job. They locked up a big portion of that supply early on. And I mean, you can't blame them for doing it, right? They've done some shady stuff here and there.
Oh, yeah.
But they were a sponsor, but it makes total sense. You need money to run the conference. And, if you want to shill your altcoin or your company, well, you have to pay for that privilege to get on stage. No one is, unless you're directly building on Monero, then okay, you get a place on stage. Tux gets a place on stage. He's directly building the Monero ecosystem.
Exactly.
Tux don't got to pay. Just with his privacy, he sacrificed your privacy.
Or if you're a project that doesn't yet have a treasury or revenue, right? But still, even if Dark5, for example, right? We just give them the stage, right? They don't have a coin yet with the value and a market cap and a fund, right? So
I remember years ago, it was 2016. It was my first conference in Mexico. I went to Acapulco, and I remember thinking, oh, cool, all of these people are sponsoring the conference, and that means I can trust them, right? I didn't realize that at the time, that no, actually, these are not necessarily vetted. They're just people that gave money to help the conference to make it happen. And I think it was, kind of a year later before I sort of realized that. So that's kind of, it's an important thing to hammer home for the noobs, because I just know if my dumbass made that mistake, then other dumbasses are going to make that same mistake as well.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, we try to, obviously we're not accepting a sponsorship from somebody who's going to come and sell. Although, but we'll let you participate in the marketplace, right? It's a free market there. If you're going to go, somebody's literally has a stand selling snake oil for Monero. you could go. We're not going to say
with a sign that says poison apples.
That's
as long as you say they're poison apples, it's okay. That's very market, Illuminati, man. Actually. That's how the Illuminati operates. That's one of their principles. Is they're well, it's okay to sell poison apples as long as you put the sign out there that said poison apples, and if people want to buy them, that's their thing. That's how they think that they eliminate the negative karma of their actions.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know, bro. I'm not Buddha.
Yeah,
but Buddha is all of us.
The
reality, bro. Yeah. I didn't see much negativity towards you, honestly. There was just a little bit. There's a couple people here and there, but by and large,
it was the Monero. It was the Monero crowd. It was the Monero. It was the couple of Monero people.
Even the Monero crowd. Most of them, I didn't see a whole lot of negativity towards you. Yeah, just a little bit, but not a huge amount. Just a couple people and maybe some socks. I don't know.
No, they're getting to your head, Doug.
No, never. I use it as motivation. Guys, And retweet though. We got 141 viewers right now. Retweet. Let's get the word out.
You will smash the like and be happy.
Buddy, looks like I cannot bring your charts up.
Oh, because I'm stupid and I didn't share them. 1 second. All right, present.
There we go.
In other
Got it.
news.
Yeah, in other news, I just want to let everyone know I have a blue check mark on my Twitter now. I didn't ask for it. I didn't pay Musk anything. Don't make anything of that. They just decided I was a real person, I guess. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe
That's
I should
cool.
say thanks, Musk. I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe
I
everyone's
didn't know
getting a
they
blue check
still
now.
do that. I thought you have to like, yeah. Okay.
Well, if you have 5, I think if you have like so many like verified followers, they just give it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I caught
lot of
the
people are-
disease from the other people in Monero that paid for the check mark, and they communicated that to me. Because-
Yeah,
Like,
'cause
no, I
it
didn't pay
was-
for it.
It was pretty awesome to see. Like that was one of the XMR's better use cases to date. Is people were selling, were buying. Somebody was like running a service, buying people the you know.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty
Check mark
cool thing. Be like, oh no, I actually paid an XMR. Oh no,
Yeah,
don't tag
yeah,
me.
no.
But technically, it
Hilarious.
still ends up going fiat to them anyway. So it's not like you really
Yeah.
change anything. It's just that you personally didn't give them your credit card or whatever, which is
Yeah.
still a cooler way to purchase that if you want it.
yeah, there's the friction cost, but I agree. It's better to
Yeah.
do it that way than the other way.
Exactly. I think we did
All right,
it
guys.
for the XMR Bazaar account. Yeah, take it away, man. Take it away.
I'll try and finish in less than an hour so that the guest, we don't cut
I
into
mean,
the
you'll have to
guest time.
spend an hour alone on Xano, I'm sure, right? It's
Obviously.
now the Xano price report.
Sponsored by Xano. Sponsored by Exolix, actually. Let's just throw a shout out to
Yeah.
our sponsor there, Exolix. Really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yes.
Those guys help to keep the show happening. This shit is not free, and Doug gives his time to make this thing happen. So, yeah, we appreciate our sponsors. Okay, yeah. So here we're looking at Monero US dollar, obviously, and we're basically just chilling. Like price is sitting here at about 200. Okay, I guess we're happy with that. We've normalized, we've restabilized to about 200 after being at 250 for quite a long period of time. This price action looks fairly constraining to me. We're going to need some kind of big impetus to push this price one direction or the other. So in other words, like, an intervention, a monetary intervention, or like Bitcoin is pumping and alts are pumping, right? Like something in the surrounding ecosystem needs to happen in order for this chart to really break out of this range. Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of my opinion. Obviously, I'm just giving opinions here, guys. Yeah, and we're looking at astrology for dudes. So, maybe that's your deal. Maybe it's not. We'll talk about some fundamental stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously you can see nothing exciting happening in Monero right here. This is classic action. You'll get a big pump, you'll get the volatility will drop off. And then at some point, this chart's going to start making a move to one direction or the other. So hopefully we can correlate that direction. Hopefully it's up. Hopefully we can correlate the other stuff happening in the macro world, in the crypto world, and in the fundamental realm and on the TA front to sort of give us a cogent picture that it's going to go one direction or another before it does. Bitcoin versus Monero is basically the same story. Things are sitting here pretty flat. To be honest, I do kind of like this pattern a little bit. This looks kind of like a pennant. Maybe we broke out of that pennant. I don't know. It looks slightly like it broke out of that pennant to the upside, but I'm not super convinced that necessarily means anything. But if Monero is going to be strong, and guys, I see more and more support for Monero out there. I see more random people. Like I'm getting follows, I'm getting likes, I'm getting people that are like, I had an interaction on Twitter the other day with a guy that was asking, oh, isn't using an exchange, doesn't that defeat the purpose of Monero? He didn't understand that just interacting with an exchange doesn't betray your transaction history. So like I actually, there was like a little bit of friction there where I had to be like, wait, what exactly are you asking? Because I just forgot that, new people might not realize that. So I just use that as like a small anecdotal data point, my own experience, as a way of saying it feels like we're getting more people in the ecosystem, both big and small. So if that's the case, there's a case to be made that the Monero Bitcoin ratio could try and push its way up here to the top side at some point. Probably, we're getting pretty close to stabilization on this thing. We're getting pretty close to like things like, the bottom dropped out pretty badly for a period of time there. And it looks like this thing might be stabilizing. I'm hesitant to really stick with that, but it's possible, right? One thing that was interesting this week is that for the most part, the exchanges haven't had too much price divergences. They've been pretty flat. Qcoin has been up a little bit. I think Qcoin is one of those exchanges that's been around for a while. I haven't heard too much about them scamming their customers. This exchange in purple, I've heard some stories. I haven't confirmed them. Personally, I would probably not use them. I mean, why wouldn't you just use MoneroTopia anyways, right? Oh, and the street price of Monero, let's take a look at it. It's on Monero.boats. I haven't verified that they are properly using the MoneroTopia. But they're saying the street price is currently $188. Meanwhile, Kraken shows us at $197. So perhaps there's a liquidity situation going on here where the price is a little bit lower. For any holy and sanctified in the system, corporate reporting, all of that stuff, there's probably an opportunity here to arbitrage price between Kraken and the other exchanges and Monero on MoneroTopia, right? Because when the price diverges, let's suppose that MoneroTopia is much higher. Well, then you can buy XMR on Kraken and then sell it on MoneroTopia, right, for that price differential. You need decent amount of volume to make that work, but it's an idea. It's an idea that if some bro out there wants to do it, there's probably an opportunity there, and the market would probably benefit from it, right? Having a little bit more stable price across the board and extra liquidity helps people get in and out of the coin. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at our sponsor, Xano. No, just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Jeez. Yeah, it's looking good. Like, I guess, I don't know. It's still got this pretty bullish structure here. It's basically riding these bands up, which is what it does. That's classic wave magic action. That's classic astrology for dudes. That's classic way that this thing behaves, this unique invention that I made. So I don't know how long it'll last. Obviously, in my mind, Xano's going to probably start doing whatever the rest of the crypto market does. So again, if things crash from here, Xano's going down. If things pump, Xano's probably continuing its bull market. So, in terms of like my personal, the way I view Xano, just as sidetrack here from the price a little bit. There were some people that had like a demand for ordinals, right? We kind of saw that pop up, and yeah, there's some small amount of demand for private assets, meme type assets. Doge Nero as as Untraceable launched. So maybe there's some lulls to be had there or whatever. I don't know. But to me, Xano isn't really that impressive of a project. The thing that is going to be impressive is DarkFi if and when they come out, right? When you can do general smart contracts privately, you can tokenize assets, you can have DEXs, you can have oracles, you can have stable coins, you can do all of this stuff. Whereas Xano currently, in its current state, you can basically have assets and that's it. But you don't even I don't think there's even a trading, like a DEX to trade those assets on. So it's still like fairly manual. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Someone in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So anyways, that's kind of like my side thinking on Xano. I'm not really a big supporter. Just because it doesn't seem like that great of a use case. I don't see what it is. And when DarkFi comes out, like that just basically shuts down the use case that I think Xano otherwise would have. Like, why wouldn't you integrate your Doge Nero onto the contracts platform, the generalized contracts platform, as opposed to a platform that's far more limited? So anyways, Firo is actually doing pretty good. They actually have a price that looks somewhat similar to Monero. They had this big pump, and then they got the volatility is dropping off. Right now, I guess this chart looks a little bit bullish. Let's take a look. Let's go back further. Yeah. Okay. So this coin,
you have a Xano. Somebody maybe Gonbat. If you're around, you could jump on later and talk to Body about it.
Xano says that Xano trade exists based on ionic atomic swaps. Okay. So there's an atomic swap built into it. Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, Gonbat, if you want to jump on later in the show, you're more than welcome to.
I'm not gonna lie. Well, I learned a lot last week. It was a little bit dry from time to time, so I might have gotten slightly distracted here and there. Anyways, yeah, so on Firo right here, it looks similar to the Monero price. If we scroll back a little bit, let's go to the weekly. It looks like Firo should maybe want to try and try and tag these bands here. It's kind of looking bullish. If we go down to the daily, I guess the weekly didn't show what I kind of wanted to see. Expand. Let's go back to there. Yeah, so basically for the past couple of years, Firo has been existing in effectively constrained by the upper and lower standard deviation bands, right? So this guy up top here, and then the orange one down there. It's still been sort of kind of falling out a little bit, but then it came back. Like this looks like a reversal pattern to me. It definitely looks like it's reasonably possible if the bull market continues and if alts want to pump. It seems likely that Firo will probably get a little bit of that action. Pirate Chain is a round tripper, guys. It pumped 140%. It dumped. Guys, this is the exact kind of action that I see on things like Ripple, where it's a heavily centralized supply. The thing pumps massively. You take the elevator up, and then you take the stairs down. I'm sorry. I know there's pirate guys in the stream, but guys, it wasn't a pre-mine, but the supply was pretty massively centralized by ASICs early on before the chain really got popular. And we can argue about whether that was fair or scam or not, but this chart is the reality of what happens typically when you have a heavily centralized supply. So that's just how that goes. At some point, this thing will probably pump again, but who knows when. Darrow is fucked. Don't buy it. Sorry, Darrow, but you guys are falling out of this trend. You're going down. Like it's going down. Like I don't see anyone post about Darrow anyway. So don't buy it. It's useless. If you have any, sell it. I don't know. Maybe you don't care. Zcash is also having some trouble. Zcash has been getting some volatility, a little bit more to the downside lately. These standard deviation bands should provide some support, right? We should at some point see this thing reverse to the upside. The target is here, right? The target is about 120, 110, something like that. So if you're trading Zcash, that's probably where I would personally be looking to get out, take some profit there. I also looked at Beam the other day. I don't know. I don't think it has much volume. It's not a very good chart. Maybe I don't have the full picture here, but yeah, this thing is, that's on the daily. Yeah, I mean, this is only like a 1.5 year chart. It doesn't look good right now. This is not good price action, but in the context of a broader bullish market, maybe this thing can just try to find some support, right? So maybe there, right? You might, if you were going to trade Beam, maybe try and pick it up around there somewhere. I wouldn't put too much money on it, right? It's just a punt. You would be hoping to sort of get back, maybe get a 2x or something on that. Okay, let's go to Big Daddy, the abusive Big Daddy coin, called Bitcoin, that doesn't want to let us out of the house, doesn't want to let us scale, doesn't want us to have any privacy, but still somehow drives the rest of the market. Yeah, so as we talked about last week, these, after the volatility to the upside, which we saw, very clear volatility, and then we saw the rollover and clearly established standard deviation clusters, okay? These are, again, multiple time frames, right? It's like Bollinger Bands, for those that know what Bollinger Bands are. They're just standard deviations, and then we just overlay a shit bunch of them together, and they form these clusters. And the clustering is important because those are the highlight areas that all the people that use this kind of Bollinger Band analysis, these are the most likely places for them to see. And psychologically speaking, right, this is more of a psychology map, not a prescriptive astrology, horoscope about what will happen. Okay. It's more like a map of psychology. After this big movement, right, for Bitcoin on the short term for the past, I guess the past month now, almost a month, Bitcoin has been constrained by the standard deviations, and that's totally unsurprising to see this thing support there, resistance there, and then found support again right there. And then zooming out a little bit more, we can also see the purple bands here as well. Those purple bands are usually pretty good indicators of support for general bull markets. This is a 4-hour chart, so we're not looking at the full big picture on the bull market. Let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick. Yeah, there's nothing here that says that the bull market's over, guys. Like in a TA sense, there's no reason to fret or fear. One thing that might happen that seems possible, reasonable, is that the way that price action has unfolded for like the past 2 years, Bitcoin gets a massive pump and then just like chops sideways, slightly bleeds down, and it gets a big pump and then it chops sideways and it bleeds down. So we could be in purgatory here for a while, for those that are traders, short-term traders, and or waiting for your bags to pump so that you can get your Lambo and your moons and all that shit. Let's see. I think we have Monero chat. If we want to put Michael McKenna up on the screen, I guess not. I'll wait till you do it, Tux. Just interrupt me whenever you do it.
Oh, sorry. I was
okay.
muted.
Yeah,
there we go.
Michael's comment. Michael McKenna tipped 25 cents. Always happy to watch Monero Talk live stream. Great show, guys. Thanks a lot, bro. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for the super chat.
Really appreciate everyone that tunes in and listens to us ramble on about the Monero ecosystem, and in this case, a bunch of shitcoins and the general ecosystem. But hopefully some of you guys get value out of it if you're degenerate traders. Okay, let's look at the shitcoins. Except for, we always say this, XMR, right? That one's not a shitcoin. The rest of them are shitcoins. No, like some of these actually have use. Link is actually a useful coin. Yeah, I know it's centralized. I know, I got it. I know ETH has some centralization. So does BTC, right? So, anyways, nothing's happening with shitcoins. Like they're all just like slowly chopping down. Everyone's bored. FTT was supposed to continue pumping, and it came back down. Okay, nothing exciting happening. Let's take a look at the dominance here. Dominance has been an interesting chart. Let's go to the weekly because this is a dirty. I feel like it's a dirty chart. The weekly is much more clear. Actually, let's go to the 3-day. That will make the wave magic easier to see and zoom in perhaps. Okay, so Bitcoin dominance here fell out of its channel. Everyone was like, alt season, yeah, it's here, it's about to, and then it just got back into the channel. So I don't precisely like that, guys, to be honest. I feel like usually once people become convinced that the bull market is on, like alt season should follow pretty quickly, but maybe before getting impatient, I need to go back and take a look at 2021 and see how long it took for for the altcoins. Actually, let's just go back here and do it. We'll do it live on stream, and you guys can see if I can think on my feet or not. Okay, so this is 2021. That's right. That's when Bitcoin broke its all-time high. Right, smashed up on the dominance, and then everything came back down. So it did take about 30 weeks. No, half that, 3 days. So it did take about 14 weeks before alt season really began in earnest, right? So when exactly did Bitcoin bust its all-time high? I think it was not that long ago. It busted through in November. So yeah, it's been 2 months. Okay. It's only been like 8 weeks, 9 weeks. So yeah, I would say, I guess on second thought here, the impatient man in me wants to be like, give me my fucking degenerate gains right now. I need my shitcoins to pump. Obviously Xano, since I'm a Xano maxi now. But this looks fine. Like it could take another, let's just say, like 10 weeks or 20 weeks for this thing to, for the altcoins to start pumping. The only thing that I worry about that is that, it's fucking macro crash, guys. Like the symptoms are getting worse. Everything's getting worse. Like it is coming. Like it is coming. This is not a doubt. It is just a question of when, right? So every week we're trying to like be on our feet, be on the ball, try and, know when this thing is coming. So let's take a look at the Monero transactions. That was exciting. And also the hash rate was exciting. So after a New Year's break where everyone did the drugs that they bought in the days prior, we like dropped down to 15,000 transactions. That's totally fine. Enjoy your substances, boys and girls. Probably and girl. There's like maybe 2 girls in Monero. Anyways, we pumped up to like 50,000 transactions. And okay, we're back at 30K. That's about where we were. I'll tell you what's really exciting here. XMR mining difficulty hash rate. There we go. XMR hash rate is basically setting all-time highs. So let's go to all-time. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit there. Yeah, XMR hash rate is now slightly edging higher from where it was previously. I guess that's about 3.5 gigas. Monero was doing about 3.5 gigas per day, and now it's doing like almost 4 gigas. So we want all the gigas.
There is when I added my Ryzen 9 7950X 3D to the mining.
Wait, so hang on. Are there 3D processors now? Are there double layer transistor silicon?
Well, extra layers for cache.
Oh, okay. That's impressive.
Yes. So like the Ryzen 3D series has like a crap ton of L3 cache.
That's beautiful. That's what you need for AI too.
And RandomX likes it. So
how what's your hash rate?
For that one specifically, I don't remember. I think it was around let me open it right now and see.
Wait, what do you mean that one specifically? You mean you've got a whole bunch of other Ryzens running in the background?
Well, I do have other Ryzen's lower end ones that aren't as good as that one. Nearly as good.
Bro, Keck, Chad. Salute to the Monero Chad here with your shit ton of Ryzens and your 3D. I thought it was cool back in the day when I got my 24 core Ryzen, and now it's like it's nothing compared to what's out there now.
So this one I think is doing around 25,000 hashes a second.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
I thought it would be better, but maybe the extra cash isn't. I guess it peaks out right after the extra cash. You don't get that much more benefit.
Yeah, and then at some point you just need more cores and maybe even more bandwidth via RAM.
Yeah, that's the only thing about the new Ryzens is that they have the 2 different types of cores now, right? They've got like the pivot cores for, for single thread applications.
Yes. Oh, for Intel, yeah.
I thought Ryzen pivoted to that as well.
Nope, still all same core type at the moment. You've just got like 16 cores and then it's multi-threaded, so you got 32 threads.
Nice. Well, salute to you, sir. Thank you for pumping our hash rate. Looks like Tux Solo is about to push us over 4 gigas. So right on. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the macro. See what the macro is doing. Dollar index is just like ridiculously strong, guys. I don't like this. This is, again, it's another one of those things that's just super concerning. This thing has just been up. This is the strongest dollar action that we've had since 2022, since April of 2022. So that's concerning, and I don't necessarily see any reason why it should end. This middle line right here, I wouldn't make too much of it. It's just kind of it's just like a reference point. Dang it, sorry. Charts are being a bit slow. It's my fault because I loaded too much wave magic. Yeah, so this line right here, I wouldn't make too much of that. It's really just a reference point for action that has happened in the past 2 decades. But these lines up top, these are like literally 15-year long lines. So yeah, again, it's true because we make it true, right? We cast the spell and everyone believes it and they see the lines and everyone's like, oh my God, I better sell, right? So that's kind of how psychology works. It's not the only factor in markets, but you have to take it into account, right? Because people are looking at the same thing in a lot of cases. And so you at least need to know what the prevailing psychology of the people looking at the TA and the pleb lines are. So that's one reason we look at it. I would expect if I had to call for a spot for it to take a break, I would expect the dollar index to grab those purple lines there and then maybe have some period of chop, right there. So yeah, that's really what the dollar index looks like. It's not good. The last time that we saw the dollar index, form this bottoming pattern and then make this big pump to the upside, that was the beginning of the bear market. That was the beginning of the bear market of 2022, right here, right? So you can see, let's take a look at the bottom. See that? May 24th, 2021. We weren't at the top yet, and the dollar index was already pumping into 2022, right? And it kept pumping. And so this was one of those signs. It's like dollar strength tends to be negative for risk assets. That's the correlation there. So that was one of the signs that we were looking at back in those days, back in 2021, that told us, hey, this bull market is probably about done. Take your profits, be happy with what you got, own something and be happy, right? Otherwise, you're just going to have to ride 3 years down and learn the time value of money. Okay, let's go to the reverse repos. Reverse repos had the near spike. This happened last year too. Very interesting. I don't know what the mechanism is behind that. I'm sure it's some big some financial institution, something like that. Probably doing an accounting thing for end of year purposes. I don't know. That would be my best guess. But anyways, it dropped back down. Yeah, I mean it's been, I guess, overall flat, but again, this is currently $178 billion of just money that has been parked with the Fed that could hypothetically go into risk, right? That is money that could continue to pump the stock market. So even when things look retarded, even when all of like the signals are like everything is bad and you're like, it hasn't looked this bad and since 2008 for whatever creative metric that you want to look at, but then the market keeps pumping and you're like, how? Well, markets move along slow time frames and there are still mechanisms here to pump the markets. And that's one of the ways that they take people, right? It's one of the ways they encourage you from not leaving the market. They don't want you to leave the stock market. They want you in the stock market. And this is exactly what they did before the COVID. Oh, crap. Are we allowed? I think we're allowed to say that now. All of the corporate assholes are now saying that we can say that stuff. So when the economy caught a cold in 2020, they pumped the shit out of the market before that crash happened. So that pump encourages you like, oh, well, okay, we already pumped 15%. Sure, we dropped 30%, but that was after pumping 15%. So people make this decision in their mind, right? The aggregate psychology of the market is being finessed, massaged, manipulated by the powers that shouldn't be. So that's just, again, stuff to keep in mind, right? And you're keep in mind in your head when you're thinking about markets. I don't know. I'm sure we have some stock market bros here that, probably have a retirement or investment or something. Again, this line right here, as we talked about so many times, this line goes back to 1929, right? This line goes back way, 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 way a long time ago. And that is a headliner spot to expect resistance. So I wouldn't expect us to just smash above that anytime soon. it would be totally unsurprising that the S&P maybe just like chop sideways here for some period of time, which is interesting because that's kind of what the Bitcoin chart is also showing us. Maybe the markets are basically waiting, right? They're waiting for Trump. They're waiting for the promises and the hope and the, I guess he doesn't say change, but he's going to make tariffs great again. So I'm sure that'll be great for markets, right? Tariffs. How bad has that ever been? And they're going to keep the income tax. So that's brilliant. Whatever. This is not here to hate on Trump, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I wouldn't say it's looking great, right? He wants to annex Canada and fill our voter rolls with leftists, but then he wants to deport the leftists. So I guess it's a net zero, but then we're going to probably annex the Gulf of Mexico. We'll have the Gulf of, how does that lower my grocery prices? Anyways, oil has been pumping lately. And right now this is probably, let's pivot here from the TA and the sort of like macro stuff. And whenever you're ready to put the super chats on, just, let me know. We have 2 of them here.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go over them real quick. I think the first one is Monero Master tipped $1 this week. I have purchased weekly groceries, paid an electric bill, ordered milk and eggs from a local farmer. Very nice. Ordered raw honey from a small business, all from XMR Bazaar. The website rocks. Good job, guys. I'll be doing a video about this soon. That's awesome, Monero Master. I'm sure Doug, if he was listening, he would be very glad to hear that you are able to buy most of your weekly items from XMR Bazaar. That's pretty sweet. And then we've got Shortwave Surfer 2009 tipped 25 cents. Thank you, sir. Aliyah is only girl in Monero. That very well might be true, and I still don't know how to properly pronounce that name.
We have Cecilia too, right?
Yes. There's
a few
couple.
We've got XLX. I always forget her name. I feel so bad. I always forget her name. The Ukrainian girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't have it in my head right now either. I'm really bad with names.
We've got a few. We have a lot of Monero waifus. I guess digital. We have digital women. Okay. Shamefully returning back to the price report after that. Shaming myself, of course. Okay, yeah. So these are Z scores. We haven't looked at these in a while. Oh no, wait. We said we're going to take a break from the macro. We're going to talk about some of the fundamental stuff happening here. So the LA fires, probably everyone's aware of that. There's these massive fires. It was bigger. It is now bigger than the Great Chicago Fire of whatever the year was, 100 years ago or something. Currently, it looks like it's about $150 billion in damage. At least that's what
wow,
AccuWeather is saying. And
is that greater than the fires in Hawaii, Lahaina last year?
Oh, it's way bigger. Yeah, the fires in Hawaii were like 10 billion maybe.
Okay,
this is like, it just eclipses it completely.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're evacuating more of the city now. And I mean, who knows when this fire is going to get contained, right? So who knows how big that ticket goes to, or that damage goes to. Maybe it's 300 billion, maybe it's $1 trillion. Like, who knows, right? It's like Australia was a couple years ago. Like, it has to burn out and it has to finish itself off. Like, there's nothing they can do it now at this point. Although I did see a dude that bought a pump and used his pool and saved his house by just spraying everything continually with water. So good on that guy. But yeah, this is going to affect the economy, guys. Like, this is probably going to affect the unemployment numbers. There's going to be a lot more unemployed people. It's going to affect productivity, right? The productivity of LA is now like, it's going to plummet for some period of time. That will probably change after the macro crash, and then they'll fund the rebuilding of it, and BlackRock will come in and buy all the property, and maybe they'll build their high-speed rail and all this stuff. Hunter Biden's house burned down. Obviously, there's the speculation that actually, I saw a video. The guy was like, listen, if you are underwater on your car payment, I'm not here to make any suggestions. This was an Instagram video. It's like, I'm not here to suggest anything, but hypothetically, you could just park your car in the wrong spot and, get out from under that crippling auto debt. So yeah, anyways, probably there's a lot of that going around. I have to imagine that there's a lot of people with an underwater house and all kinds of other problems. I don't know. How do you, well, there's people doing arson, right? There's reports of seeing arsonists. Okay. Anyways, the point here on the price report is that this is a significant event, and this is starting to look like it could be one of those, one of the crisis, right? We've been talking about, they always have a reason for the financial crisis. The only time they didn't was 2008, but that was, the crisis was the crisis, right? The monetary system was the crisis. The banks, the housing industry was the crisis. So anyways, yeah, like maybe this could turn into that crisis. It's hard to say,
Or
especially
could
if
at
it
least be a
compounds.
contributing catalyst towards that,
Exactly.
whatever it would be.
Yeah, like this would be a major component of that. And if we see something like, if we see another fire break out in California or some other big problem, or this fire just like totally eats Los Angeles, I mean, this could be that crisis that we talked about. And then they're like, oh, but we have to print the money because we have to rebuild LA. We're not going to leave those people hanging, but they're going to print the money and give it to BlackRock, not the people whose houses burned down, because they never give the money to the people who are underwater in their mortgage. They gave it to the companies, and they wrote reserves onto their balance sheets on the reserve side of the Federal Reserve Circuit to make these big finance institutions solvent again. But they didn't give the people any money. They didn't do any debt forgiveness for the people that had the predatory loans that were done by these big fucking banks. So, anyways,
Don't
just
worry,
expect that
they'll
that's how
each
that's
get
going to play out.
$700.
Maybe they'll get 800 this time. That's like 15% more.
Big bucks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a big deal. Another thing that we didn't talk about when we were over here on Bitcoin is that a federal court has ruled that the Department of Justice may sell off $6 billion in BTC. It was previously in limbo. I don't know who I don't know who the defendant was or the plaintiff was or whoever, but basically the DOJ wanted to sell off this Bitcoin. They couldn't. They were in court for it. Now the court has ruled that they are allowed to sell it off. That doesn't mean that they're going to sell it off right away, but maybe. I don't know if there's an appeals process. I didn't look that deeply into it, but it's a factor. I mean, I know Bitcoin is a $1 trillion market cap, but $6 billion is significant. That is a significant amount of instant liquidity. So that could affect the price, right? That could cause a fall in the price if they decide to do that. Maybe the Maxis, the Laser Eyes, can beg Michael Saylor hard enough to take out more loans to buy that Bitcoin. I don't know.
This is the Cheetos popcorn tin Bitcoin, right? the Jimmy Zong Silk Road.
I guess
right?
I didn't know that. Okay, that's good.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's from. It's from the James Zong case. Jimmy Zong, who sort of stole 69,000 Bitcoin due to a bug in Silk Road. He managed to just have the website give him basically unlimited Bitcoin through his withdrawals. And I believe that's what the U.S. government is looking to sell off now.
Yeah, so that happened because of UTXO management. Basically, he was cashing out a little bit at a time. He was trying not to cash out too much of it. But he accidentally associated a change address UTXO to his actual to an exchange that had his actual personal identifying information. So at least in court, that was kind of the slam dunk right there. Like it's hard to argue with that because this is not complex chain analysis. This is just like simple chain analysis.
And I see people out here saying like, "Oh, but I use a new address for every time I receive." Well, it's like, okay, as soon as you spend any multiple outputs together from different addresses, you link them together irrevocably, and that could be all they need to pwn you. So I mean, yeah, it's
and it can happen after the fact. Like worst of all,
after the fact. Yeah.
After the fact, he was safe and secure for years.
For years, yeah, like 8 years. Crazy.
So I mean, he probably should have converted a lot of that into Monero, or at least the part that he wanted to cash out for living expenses. He should have converted that into Monero, and whatever privacy coins at the time were in competition, because there was no Monero in 2012, obviously. But he really should, especially as the years rolled on, 2017, 2018, 2019. He should have converted a significant portion into Monero and cashed out that way. But, well, feel bad for the dude. I think he's either about to be out of jail or he is out of jail. They took all his money. Maybe he did convert to Monero, right? Maybe he has a stack that we don't know about, but I don't think so because that theft was that was transparent. So they know that all of those coins are basically still in those same addresses now.
Yep. What's crazy is that he only got I think you're right. You only got a year. And I mean, a year for stealing that much Bitcoin. I mean, that's nothing. This guy was a high roller for 8 or 9 years. And now he just gets basically a slap on the wrist. And I guess it's because it's kind of he didn't technically steal it. He just took advantage of a mismanagement, right? And that might be why it wasn't that in trouble for it. But I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, there was definitely some unsettling legal theories that emerged from this case, and I think that the government knew that their case was problematic, so they took what they could get with Jimmy, and they just gave him a year. I think something like that is what happened. But yeah, okay, so it's that coin, it's that Bitcoin. Yeah, so that's not great for price. Previous sell-offs haven't necessarily been terrible for price. I feel like the shit, what was that? What was the exchange that we talked about forever that finally repaid the coins? Gox.
Mt.
Like
Gox.
that was so long in the tooth. And then they seemed to release it at the time that everything was pumping. So like that's when they sold the coin. So it doesn't seem like it had a huge impact on making the market look bad. Hypothetically, in the current situation that Bitcoin is in right now, unless it wants to pump again, this could cause a negative, could cause a red dildo. So just know that that's a factor out there. It could be a problem. All right, let's continue with the macro. Let's go to bonds, and we'll try and close it out here pretty quickly. Bonds. Yeah, so bonds right now are spiking. What this means is that people are dumping bonds. People are dumping the U.S. bond. Nobody wants the bond. They're all fucking selling. And so when that happens, the government, in order to meet their sales quota for the bonds that they're trying to sell, the treasuries that they're trying to sell, they have to raise the interest rates, right? The interest rate has to climb in order to encourage people to buy that bond, right? Because what do you want, a lower interest rate or a higher interest rate? Obviously higher. The same thing happened back here, back in when the economy caught a cold in 2020. You saw that. So as the Fed was already lowering rates, right about here is when the long-term end of the yield curve started pumping to the upside significantly above the federal funds rate. And then it was, let's take a measurement, from the moment that those pumped until March 3rd, that was 99 bars. So 100 days, right? If we were to overlay that exact same thing right here, this is the point where the bonds have, the long end of the curve has pumped above the federal funds rate. The yield curve is correcting back to normal. 100 days would be about March 30th. So, yeah, we could be looking at the end of March, maybe early April. Maybe that's the new target time frame for the macro crash. I feel like there's going to be people out there that don't understand, the position here because I keep talking about this and it's like, but until the signs are incipient, and I use that word a lot, but until it's like, no, this fucking thing is right here on our doorstep, right? Until that moment, it's like, okay, it should be game on or at least flat on the markets. So, and it's hard to call the exact moment that things are going to reverse. Like if you remember Michael Burry, I don't know if you guys saw the Big Short, but he was like, I might have been early, but I'm not wrong, right? And of course, the guy that was pissed off at him, he's like, it's the same thing, Michael. It's the same thing. So just know that like this is coming. There's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and we're just trying to figure out, when. So for now, I've generally tried to be on the long side of this market. I don't want to watch it pump and then, miss out on the gains. Although, keeping a good cash position is always prudent so that you can take advantage of opportunity. Typically that's if you have a little bit of extra savings, a little bit of extra investment. If you, let's suppose you've got 50K, 100K as your net worth, you might want to just leave that all in the market, right? You might, unless you're actually like a trader and you do this shit, like, you pay a lot of attention to it and you really like study hard. Otherwise you probably mostly want to just hodl like most people do because the market goes up forever. Okay. So we had unemployment numbers that happened, that came out on Friday. And okay, a little tick down here. This is going to pump, guys. Like this is a foregone conclusion with what's happening in LA. Unemployment numbers are about to start to skyrocket. And that is yet again another bad sign, because when unemployment starts to spike, that is another sign of an imminent macro crash. So just know that the LA thing, we're trying to tie that into this, right? That's a fundamental event. It's a crisis type of event. And we're trying to tie that into our market analysis here. So yeah, that's what looks like is going to happen. Some people say that inflation is going to come back. It might. It probably won't come back for a couple years, because when the liquidity expansion, the intervention happens, it all goes into markets, right? So it goes into markets. The markets pump. Nobody wants to buy stuff in the real world because it's like, I'm about to get a 5x, a 10x on my, or at least a 2x if you're a stock market bro. All right, so they don't want to sell. So the inflation actually stays at bay for a period of time for the bull market. So when inflation starts spiking, that's another sign that the bull market is over. But I guess we're not quite there yet. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Keep you guys apprised of what's happening in the world here. Oil has spiked a little bit. This is, again, we're looking for oil to break down for the macro crash. It is currently spiked, and that is probably also related to the LA fire as well. That's probably what's going on there. The speculators are anticipating that that oil prices are going to spike, right? Because of, the limited supply that's going to be there in San Francisco. This is just what they do with a crisis, what they always do. It doesn't matter what the crisis is. It doesn't matter if it should even be related to oil. Oil still just pumps, like the gas prices, they'll go up. So anyways, ultimately though, this will reduce demand, right? this will reduce demand for oil across an entire city that is now not using the electricity. I know it's only one city across a very large world, but that is a negative factor for the oil price in the long run. But in the short term, the speculators are driving up the price. I guess that's about it, guys. I don't see any reason to cover too much else here, unless I've forgotten something. I think we have some comments. Anon and Harold Bishop.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Anon here. Not expert bizarre, but this week I purchased multiple items with CakePay plus Amazon. Oh, very nice. And I also swapped some XMR using Cake Wallet / Exolix to purchase some used stuff on Reddit. Cake Wallet, awesome. Thank you, sir. Glad to hear that. And Harold Bishop, do you guys think with the growing strength of the dollar and the possibility of a geopolitical Black Swan event, we might have seen the crypto market top for this cycle? That would be sad if true.
It's possible. It's what it would look like is we would get like a 2020 crash, right? They would have to intervene at some point, and then the markets would start going up, and that's what will probably push Bitcoin to the upper regression boundary. So right around 200K at the end of the year is about what that would look like. So at the moment, it's difficult for me to think that there is enough liquidity and enough like just money slushing around in the system. It's hard for me to think there is enough money slushing around in the system to push Bitcoin up to its maximum fraud. We call it the maximum fraud leverage price of Bitcoin because that's literally what it is. It's like they push the shit as high as they possibly can go. They start freezing people's accounts on the exchanges so that you can't cash out to try and keep the market up as high for as long as possible. But that game only lasts so long. And this is the nature of what happens because of a centralized supply. Again, the guys that centralize supply, Bitmain and their partners with the exchanges, this is how they manage the price, right? They do these big blow off tops. They dump their bags at the top, and that creates the top, right? Like when Charlie Lee sold off his Litecoin bags back in 2017, after working with Brian, Mr. Baldy, to add it. Not that there's anything wrong with being bald, to add it to Coinbase. So I always feel like I'm trying to put these like disclaimers and caveats when I insult people. All right. Anyways, whatever. So the point is that, I think I don't see that there's enough monetary money slushing around in the system to get us to here at this moment. But maybe, something like that. And then the macro crash. And then, and then we go up to this level and then it, pulls back. This line is solid, guys. Like this is how you make your money. This is you DCA out of Bitcoin and out of crypto when we approach that red line. And then you DCA as we approach the blue line. It's really actually pretty simple, honestly. And since assets go up forever, right? So far, this has been a good model. Now let's talk about this because I addressed this last week, but I addressed it in a way that maybe was too technical on the verbiage. This is just a statistical model. It doesn't tell you about fundamental events. It doesn't tell you if the dollar collapses or China and Russia and the United States go into a trilateral war or something. It doesn't tell you any of that. So this chart could break down. In fact, I'm telling you this chart will break down because the green line and the red lines will intersect in 2037. So it's going to break down one way or another, but it's still useful, right? It is still modeling. What we're doing is we are looking at an underlying economic process. That is the most likely thing that we're doing. And we're using statistics to identify that. Now, again, the model could break because of fundamental events, but just keep in mind that when COVID happened and they printed 25% of the M2 in 1 year, this model still held. I have not calculated this red line on the basis of this top at all. This red line was calculated, and I haven't even updated it because it hit it so perfectly that I actually don't need to update it. I should just to be, for best practices. But I used one. Let's just show you right here.
It's crazy how perfect it hit that top multiple times.
It was amazing. I used these 4 tops right here. These 4 blow off tops are what I used to calculate the red line, and then it just nailed it. So despite them, and I thought, hey, we might actually break this line because I was thinking, okay, they just printed 25% of the M2 money supply. That's a fundamental factor. Perhaps that could affect the blow off price of Bitcoin. Could be higher. It didn't. So we actually need something more severe, more drastic as a fundamental event than COVID to really do some kind of fundamental invalidation of this upper boundary here. So
sorry, guys,
hopefully that
Bitcoin's not going to $10 billion anytime soon.
Yeah, $100 trillion.
So buddy, so if we do see like a big crash, where do you see Bitcoin bottoming out at before it starts to make its way back up?
Yeah, let's go back to. I usually use Wave Magic for those kind of levels. It depends. If we get like a true macro crash, I wouldn't even be surprised. I would probably expect us to hit somewhere like this, right? Maybe somewhere like that. hypothetically, let's just add the regression on here again. Anyways, I don't know why I removed it. Hypothetically, we could go down to the green line, right? Like maybe. I don't think it would be that low. That's pretty low. Like that's 31,000. I wouldn't see Bitcoin crashing more than like 50% because that's kind of what happened when the economy caught a cold. I guess it crashed 60%. So if the same exact kind of thing happened, 60%, shit, man. Okay, maybe, right? Maybe we could touch that green line, that lower boundary. But that is just, bros, that is maximum. If that happens, that is maximum opportunity. I'm taking leverage. I'm putting big money onto leverage. Like it's happening, right? Like. As long as they do the intervention, right? I'll be waiting for the Fed to be like, oh, we're going to intervene, right? And then it's buy. Just be careful about taking too much leverage because, calling those crazy red dildos and wicks, smashing the buy button at precisely the right moment when there's all that volatility. That's not necessarily an easy thing to do. So just keep that in mind.
All right. Body man, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Tux,
Good stuff as always.
Badass miners.
I'm just waiting for the scenario where everything crashes except Monero, which goes up.
I need that proper altcoin season though. This has been lame so far. Like, what is this? Never fully took over the needed crypto dominance. BTC still has maintained a high dominance so far. So the altcoin season never really took off.
Well, we as we mentioned earlier, a similar thing happened, right? When Bitcoin finally broke its all-time highs here in December, or maybe it was like November. Anyways, and Bitcoin dominance spiked. It was still 13 weeks, right? There was still a 13-week delay before. Okay, like it came back down, kind of like we had this spike and it came back down here, but it was still 13 weeks, maybe 15 weeks, 14 weeks before things actually dropped. So hypothetically, Bitcoin just hit 100K. If we go forwards here by 13 weeks, 14 weeks, we're looking at mid-February. So perhaps alt season could start in mid-February. That will be abbreviated if we get a macro crash in February. Currently, the way the bond market is behaving, the previous pattern, if overlaid on the current one, would suggest now like the end of March, early April. So perhaps we could get an alt season before the macro crash happens. I hope we do.
I mean, we have Trump coming into office, right? He's supposed to be like Mr. Bitcoin now. When he's really he's
Mr. Money Printer. He's Mr. Money
US
Printer.
Dollar. Yeah, he's Mr. Money Printer too. So
right?
Yeah.
And at some point, all that money, like, see, the thing is, if they're just going to continue printing like insane amounts of the M2 money supply, like they did during COVID, I mean, it's not going to be as significant as it was specifically that time. But it seems like as time goes on, they just keep, doing more and more over time. Then that's going to end up going into these markets at some point, regardless. So,
yeah. Yes, I think that's what's happening.
Which money printing isn't a good thing, obviously, but it's ironic how that works. It's like, oh, eventually it'll end up in the market, and you'll air quote make some gains, and if you really take into account the inflation, it's like, okay, how much am I actually making? Yeah. But
right,
yeah.
At least it helps keep you on top of the inflation that you're forced to partake in without your will.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in that prison, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to play that game, or you're going to get left behind.
We have in the news today a good tweet about Malay and how he's been money printing.
Interesting.
But I'd be curious to get your take on that.
I don't know. I didn't know that. I'd like to see it.
Yeah. All right.
Supposedly, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead, buddy. Finish your thought.
So they said supposedly Argentinian inflation has come down significantly. It's hard to say with all the fake news. One side says one thing, other side. But people that we know seem to be saying that, the inflation is starting to get more reasonable now.